Okay, hello everybody. Things, if you look around the YouTube universe and have been watching the news and a lot of podcasts, you know that things look serious and grim, but I think it's time for a little tabloid time to lighten up, lighten things up a little bit. And this came to me earlier today when I was watching the latest from the I've Had It ladies, and they did their broadcast that about with which I'll leave a link in the comments when this gets published. About it was in the Daily Beast, and it was an article about one of T's adoring. It was like T's adoring age. Is it? With driving the Secret Service crazy or something like that. And this young blonde woman, oh my God, they're all like out of the same cookie cutter and they all look like Ivanka, but we're not going to go there for maybe for another reading. Uh, and her name is Natalie Harp, and she's only like about 33. This guy's old enough to be her grandfather, probably. And she's got this like really weird crush on him. And she was the one walking around with the printing. They called her the printing aide or something like that, printing picture things for articles that were complimentary for him, and all kinds of stuff, and writing him love notes. And the Secret Service people think she's kind of weird and sort of wondering about her. And so going into the land of a little bit of on the smutty, fun, guilty pleasure side, um, this is represented by she is the Princess of Cups in reverse. And since this deck has just the queens, just imagine the younger version of her. And she's both the queens and the Princess of Cups in reverse. They're very needy emotionally and really off balance. And I would say the younger version, who would be, I think this girl has the emotional level of like a 13-year-old probably. And they are emotionally immature, getting unrealistic crushes on people. Who knows if it's gone? He doesn't lack any, he doesn't have any control. So who knows what's been going on with them for entertainment purposes only. But she writes him love notes. She absolutely adores him. And it is kind of bizarre and creepy, but I thought it might be a little bit fun to do a reading on that. And as the sub card in the thumbnail, we have her gazing into the cup. We have her gazing into the devil card with a Trump face on it, which is all about, codependent, toxic, addictive relationships. And it just seemed like the perfect card to have within the Princess of Cups in reverse. So I think what we're going to do is talk about, with the cards, talk about the crush that she has on him. Well, what is this all about? And first of all, what does it mean for him and the Secret Service? That's the first part. Second part would be, and what is it for us? If there's some, I mean, there's like a ton of readings you could do, like, is she the Russian spy and all this kind of stuff. Although I don't think she falls into the MO, because the spies, they kind of play hard to get and seduce the guy. And it's kind of a little bit of a more mature thing, but it's kind of fun to think about at any rate. So for the part one, we're going to see what this is doing to him, and maybe to see if the cards tell us if there's any pankei going on too. So the heavier story, which I'm probably, like everybody in their mother will be doing readings on, is the story about the former KGB operatives who have said that he's been groomed like by since 1987 to be helpful to Russia. So shall we say? So that's going to be a reading that's going to come up really soon. Okay, I've been shuffling these for ages before this began. I was watching another video and I just shuffled. Okay, so let us see what is this about for him. And even if the Secret Service love him, somebody like that's got to be a little bit kind of weird to deal with. So let me put this down to the viewing level. Oh, I didn't turn the mic on. Oh, excuse me a second here. You can tell I don't edit these videos. Okay. Oh, I knew I forgot something. Okay. Let me see. Ah, there we go. Okay. Because somebody had told me that they liked my video, but the sound, and then I went out and bought the microphone, but it doesn't do any good unless I plug it in. Okay, so let's see what is this all about? Okay, the Two of Wands in reverse. And when I get this for relationships and things like this, it usually means this this isn't going anywhere. This may be more on her than him at the present, but who knows? We'll see. Who knows what's gone on in the past? Because I mean, if he has a bunch of her like out of the cookie cutter, then why would he stick with one person? Also, she's with Elena Hubba Bubba Doodle, whatever her name is, the lawyer, who I think has been vying for his attention, and that Lauren, whatever her name is, the right wing nut job. Okay, well, they're all right wing nut jobs. Okay, so energetically, we have the Six of Wands in reverse. This is not a winning situation for him to be in. It really isn't. So if there has been anything going on, there's like no future in it. In his mind, in her mind, I think the fact that it is there of going off and sailing off in the sunset or whatever, but this is not and it's not that this isn't like the old days where even rumors of this stuff would be career enders, but he made it through Stormy Daniels and the Access Hollywood tape and all this stuff, but it just isn't a winning situation, not because of the sexual innuendos, but national security wise. I think that's the deal here. So I need to put those back in the deck since I already okay. Alrighty, so going on underneath this is the Hanged Man in reverse, which in his world he is not seeing. I think what she has had this fantasy that he's going to have a new attitude and see things in a different light if he takes a break from his wife, and that I gotta put that in reverse here. Okay. um so it's like no more than just another you know what to park it, so to speak. And and it's just like he loves the adoration and this sort of thing, but even a narcissist like him has to have a point where that gets kind of like too much. Okay, then we have the Ace of Pentacles, which is part of his appeal to her is the power and the money, even if the money is just fantasy land, all on paper. It's still the myth of him as the really rich dude. And then we have walking away, that like this is just the what he is, probably what she is too. So kind of like stealing from the people, and the ends justify the means, and it's okay as long as you don't get caught. So she figures that that has made them soulmates. So let's see what we have in opposition of this. And this is um, for some reason underneath, and it's not like, oh, he's having an affair on his wife, because that, but there's something about his relationship with her that, and it's kind of those swords looming, that for some reason could be a downfall for him. And there's something else going on here. I wonder if it's tied in with that story, with because I thought, ooh, romantic spy stuff. But I'm kind of wondering if maybe there is a connection, but not in the usual, like what you'd see in the movies way. Okay, so in the past, here we go. In the past, we have fantasies and illusions and smoke screens. I'm going to say, I think she has built this whole thing in her mind that he's absolutely nuts about her. And this is the fantasy and illusion card. I'm going to say that a lot of that is in her own head. And if they have slept with each other, then that only magnifies it. So there's something in the past that has led her to believe that they are just absolute soulmates. I think I need to do another thing in the past here. Okay. Two of Swords. I'm going to say on his part, he finds her attractive, and she's absolutely, and she's his type. She adores him, all this sort of thing, but still there is a downside to this. So I think he's gone back and forth, can't make up his mind. He may for a little while got caught up in this stuff too. So I'm going to say that even though I think she's been around, I guess there's been some way that he's led her on, and he just doesn't know what to do with all of this. Okay. So, in the conscious thoughts for him, I feel like it's for him. It's the I am the government, I am powerful, I that makes me sexy. So that's his whole, and I can have any woman that I want. So, which is making me wonder, maybe the thing that's turning him off a little bit is that she isn't quite hard enough. If she's not that hard to get, it's not so much of a conquest anymore. And the subconscious thoughts is everything is motivated around money with him, money and power. And I would say that's about the dynamic of who he sleeps with too. Um, if she's going to add to that, that's fine. If not, she's really got to take a hike. So I think, and I did read in that article where the Secret Service and these very excursions were trying to keep her staying far away, but I think it was a Mar-a-Lago one summer, and she kept creeping in close. I mean, it is creeping in closer and closer. I'm starting to think of her as like because of the article and the two ladies, I think Jessica and Pumps were making some reference about fatal attraction. And what that is about, if you remember the movie, is, the Michael Douglas stockbroker type of character gets carried away and has a fling with this woman, but she does, it's Glenn Close, and she doesn't see it that way. So she becomes obsessed. So they may be joking around about this, but I'm going to say that she's unbalanced, which is really Princess of Cups. All of those court cards with the cups in reverse, it talks about being emotionally unbalanced. So I'm going to say that Um, if it doesn't look like it's a profit for him, always or to his advantage, he always gets rid of the woman. He did that with Ivanka for whatever reason, then Marla Maples, and I think he and maybe Melania have some kind of weird understanding, or he's kind of got her trapped in some way, but I've heard she charges him for her to show up for things, so she must have made a nice chunk of change on a inauguration week. Okay, um, so with him, I'm going to say that he did not read those signals with her, because narcissists have a tendency not to do that. So what is going on right now with them? Oh, if he had any fantasies and illusions, he doesn't have a real big attention span. So they're gone. That's what I'm saying. They're gone now. I mean, they could come back, but they're pretty much gone for him. And it looks like over there they're alive for her. I feel like we need another card with that. And this is very interesting. I'm going to say that the neediness of someone like that, whether they're just pursuing you or you've had a fling with, I'm starting to think maybe there could have been a fling for entertainment purposes only. So he's come out of that a little bit wounded and world weary and thinking, well, this isn't the way that's supposed to happen. So now it's time to move on. I think in this card applying to her, it's kind of like, oh, it's a setback. It wasn't him. I'm just going to patch myself up and live to fight another day. So this is very interesting dynamic going on here. This is just so tabloid. I love it. Okay, so um, with the hopes and the fears, Six of Wands. So this is going to take on several little dynamics here. I think she's living in a fantasy world of maybe winning him. I mean, her behavior, it's almost like really stocky. And yet I think he keeps her on for his ego. And what it comes down to is that he figures that having someone like that on his arm really elevates him quite a bit. And she's younger than Melania. So, but I think on her part, she's really hoping for a win to win him. And then, of course, the fear is that she won't, and that probably really takes up quite a bit of real estate in her world. So let's see what's happening in the not too distant future. Oh boy. Queen of Cups in reverse. You know what this is telling me is that in a few years, where when she goes into gets a little older in the Queen of Cups, it's telling me she's just not going to let her older self is just not going to let go of this. I mean, even if they're miles apart, it's going to be one of those, oh, I know he's going to come back to me at any time. So it looks like this is really, this woman has issues, and most of the cards, she's focusing on the cup. And in reverse, she's focusing on it in an emotional way of something she thinks she's going to have, but she isn't. So that this is what's going on here. And in the more distant future is Six of Swords in reverse. She's just not going to move on with her life. She's going to be stuck in that fantasy world, whether he keeps her around on his payroll or not. And if he does can her and banish her, she'll just make up some fairy tale about how that isn't really true. So that's saying that he may move on, but she's not going to. So what is there? There's a lesson in this. It's kind of bizarre. The lesson in this is So you've got to be realistic, see things for what they are. When they're done, you got to move on. And it takes people back to that one relationship they may have had where they did kind of lost themselves and got caught up in in certain things that really were not true, not real. So as I gather these up and shuffle them, we're going to see like anything a president does, it affects us. It does have an impact. I go back to Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, and I was working at a big hotel in Seattle, and I can't believe it. I was thinking back, all the people, all the servers, we were arguing about that. I mean, we took that to work with us, and and we were, this was like when we were in the back of the hall and on breaks, we argued about this for weeks, and there was some animosity that developed among people, and it does affect our lives when public, and and they may not be quite on their game. It used to be like, I guess, in my parents' generation, FDR messed around, but the press, that was off limits for the press. Eleanor had her private life, and it was nobody's business, and it apparently didn't affect the way he governed, but sometimes I think maybe the good old days were better. But it's not only that, but it's if they're of an unfriendly agenda to our national security, that's a concern too. You never know. That's why it's, in a way, that's why it's been aside from it being kind of prudish, it's also a career ender, because like, oh, are they, during the Cold War, oh, they Russian spies and all that sort of thing. So that's a kind of feeling that prevails. So I want to see, how is this affecting us? Whether I'm going to say that at the very least, it was an emotional thing, where he might have taken her into his confidence, but I don't know. It could have been a physical thing. In a sense, it almost doesn't make that big of a difference, because the emotional stuff is still there, and I can't help but to think that for some reason I'm just wondering, which will be the undercurrent of how it affects us, is that whole thing about I didn't know about that KGB stuff until I thought sometimes early in the morning, I either like to watch that British guy Tim with a cute little dog, and then Gary and David do their twin tarot videos, and or it was either that, or David did his tarot by the bay, and he was talking about that. I went, whoa, what is this? And then I saw some posts on Facebook and an article, and this sort of thing that does need to be investigated. I thought, and then I saw the two ladies with this like, ooh, sexy story. And I'm just kind of wondering, is this all connected? Is there some kind of connection with this? It's sort of like I'm in psychic overdrive. One, of course, for entertainment purposes only. So let's see, what does this mean for us? Because if there's any national security, I mean, it's okay. I have no idea. So let's see what Mr. Tarot says. Okay. Well, judgment is saying, you know, all of you people floating out there, that's interesting how different this car is from the rider. All you people floating out there in your own world, you need to wake up and pay attention to what is happening, because a lot is happening here. Okay, so we've got that. And then crossed with the energy of the Six of Cups. And it's about the whole MAGA fantasy of living in the white nation of the 1950s and the 60s. That nostalgia stuff with like there wasn't one black person in Dick, Jane, and Sally readers that we had in grade school to learn how to read in their stories. No, they didn't have any. There were no black kids on the block with them, or brown kids. So it's that the dynamic is that, and I think she does represent that very white. In fact, she resembles that beauty queen thing that went around that they thought was the press lady, but they all look alike. It represents the world of like the beauty pageants of the 1950s and all this stuff. So there's a lot of that dynamic going on here. So we've got yes, we've got that, and I think that judgment is saying, we've got to wake up and realize that this fantasy is not viable, and they're trying to, and then this is what those executive orders have been about. And so here's the story. Okay, interesting. We've got judgment in reverse, which is saying people haven't been listening. They just haven't been listening to the call. They stay in their own little coffins until they're yanked out of them. So then we have that, and maybe what wakes people up is like, ooh, a salacious thing about a politician. Okay. I'm going to say whatever's going on with this stuff is definitely going to throw a lot of people out of their comfort zone. And this is the smug merchant who's just been going along in life in his own little world, kind of a boring little world too, without much of a struggle. But in this in reverse, it's saying, well, you wish for that, and it hasn't exactly turned out to be what you hired it to be, and that you're going to be going out of your comfort zone. Now, I think that these things happening and the weirdness, I mean, it's one thing for that lawyer chick and the bigot chick and that this sort of thing that, yeah, you kind of expect him to sleep with people like that, but to someone to get obsessive over him, that is kind of weird. So then what we have coming up is I think that what this is stirring up is that maybe people really, it's part of this whole chaos thing, that maybe what people really want is for there to be more stability and to, that the economy was chugging along and recovering from what Biden did. And maybe this is the represents, and there was a feeling of loyalty with his people, which doesn't exist here. So there's the whole thing of like, boy, the voters, be careful what you wish for. I could even say that this card could also represent with the world turned upside down as the FAFO, F around and find out, and realizing that we were actually on the road to recovery. So this part of his personal life is just representative of the chaos that we're now living in, and that how it exists on every level of government. So we have opposing this, we have the Three of Pentacles, the guy negotiating with the invisible person. It's like, yeah, who do we negotiate with? We cannot, certainly we can't with his administration. Maybe because what this is saying is that, we're trying to draw attention. Well, he wouldn't listen because he's a narcissist, but I'm going to say with this story coming out in the Daily Beast, and it'll probably be people, I wouldn't be surprised if the British tabs haven't been salivating over this one too. And it's sort of like, here I have something to offer, but there's nobody there to negotiate with. So this is kind of part of the chaos, and it could be a distract that could be a distract, but sometimes we need a little bit of a distraction. So let's see. In the past, we have the hopes of people looking for the future. I would also say that could be good old Natalie thinking that she had a future because she's probably been traveling all over the world, well, as much as over the world as he's able to get, being a felon. But she's traveled the world with him and actually thinks that maybe there is a future. I mean, if you read some of that stuff she wrote, and go, whoa. So we got that, and also coupled with, it's kind of like there have been so many things that have been happening and taken on that adds to the burden of this nation, and it's kind of like we don't know how to get rid of it. So here, and it's interesting, it's wands, 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 and it's all about pentacles and wands. It's all about like the love and the money and the sex and the money and all of this stuff, and that this, we have this one upright, which is about the passion that's felt, and then this one in reverse, which is like burned out. It all piled up and now it's burned out. Okay. So on the conscious thoughts, we have the moon. And to us, like, what does all of this mean? And it is bringing out the shadow side, the shadowy side of our country. And you've got the crab on the lower end of the evolution. Have we really evolved from the days of the 13 colonies that, are they trying to bring back slavery? What's going on? And that you can't, well, actually, in this one, you can't tell the feral dog from they're like twin dogs, sort of like the feral and the more tame portions of our nature, but it's hard to find the one that's tamed, and that's really what's bothering us now, is that we, on a conscious level, it's like our identity, and are we as screwed up? Are we as screwed up as what this administration that seems like it's gone on for 30 years instead of 30 days now? On the subconscious level, it's, I always see this as the chaotic celebration, and it's just, to me, this card, I look at the other cards are all like, you know hugging each other and toasting. It's like they're kind of scattered. You don't know which one of them is going to turn. It's and that's the way it's been since the end of this election, is it's really that it hasn't left us on a deep level, is the chaos and the discommunication, and the people should be, the MAGA people would be celebrating, but it's a real messed up kind of a thing with lots of emotions, and that's what's been going on in the inside, is that our world has been really turned upside down. So let's see how whatever's happening with them affects us now. So I think, I always see this as kind of emotionally spent in a way. He's taking a rest under the tree, and the three cups kind of represent, well, these are sort of the options that we've run out of, and then that hand coming from who knows where, with another one saying, how much can we take? Another one? Can we take something else? Or what else is going to be happening? What else could be happening? I would say that this may be perhaps a little bit of a diversion. We'll see what else is going on in the now. Still, we're fed with the illusion of the happy family and the family values. But just like a rainbow will disappear in a few minutes, it's we know that's not sustainable, but this is what they're trying to feed us, and yet they behave, these MAGA people behave in a completely different way. So it is confusing. It's kind of, these go together because it is confusing for us. So let's see what our hopes and fears are. Okay. The hope is, I hope we can get a rest from this, but the fear is, I don't know if we can take a rest right now. I don't know if we have that luxury of resting, but hey, this is kind of a fun little diversion, but still, there's something underneath this that I have to see if there is a connection between this little love, if you want to call it that, or obsession thing is tied in with what that guy said, the KGB guys have been saying. So let's see what we have here. Again, the Queen of Cups in reverse. And this time I'm going to say that if in order to get someone to get to do what you want them to do that may have an illegal or a lot of consequences, is to appeal to their emotional neediness. And that would be the Queen of Cups in reverse. I would also say that would be Trump as well, with his father issues. And he's got to be loved, but it's got to be loved on his own terms. And the Russians have been playing on that for, according to what I read, if it's true. I'm not saying it is true, but it certainly needs to be investigated. That it's easy to get the emotional needy people and flatter them. This is a high maintenance queen and princess too. I mean, the real definition of a princess. Their ego has to be strong. They have to be complimented. They have to be, I mean, it's just like, and you have to call them up 20 times a day. I mean, but if someone knows how to play into this, then they've got them. And I would say that now it's becoming a little clearer with him, is that in a sense, perhaps he found a female version of himself in this very needy little girl, this little girl woman. And maybe that was an attraction, but at the same time, that can be a repellent because, oh no, you're supposed to be doing that with me. So they may not, I'm going to really go out on a for entertainment, only limb. And it's like they may not have used somebody like that to get information, because someone like that's too much of a loose cannon, but to manipulate a situation to get him in a position of being with someone who is very distracting and leaves him more vulnerable. Or else this could have been like, whoa, this is just great. We couldn't have planned this better. And especially if this story is breaking with the other story, that does make him more emotionally vulnerable. So I'm going to say that if all of this is true, there could be that connection, but not in the connection of like sexy spy in a James Bond movie kind of, because she's not that. She actually looks like she could be in that, but she doesn't have that personality or the energy. So let's see what's coming up. So this, again, this sort of thing, if they take advantage of it, it does become national security. This is another awful thing about this administration. So coming up in the near future, oh, interesting. Now we've got these 10 of cups in reverse, and that saying is coming back to reality and not believing the fantasy and not buying into this. We're going to live in a 1950s TV show with a beautiful house and the little duckies and swans in the pond. that it's waking up to reality to see if somebody, if in fact there's national security and for whatever. That's why that now I'm understanding why the Secret Service is nervous. It's not maybe that they're afraid he's going to spill some beans to her, but that maybe she's going to be spilling some beans that because she doesn't seem that bright. I mean, this is where a crux of the issue is that two vulnerable people together. He's told her some things. She could go black, not on purpose, not on purpose. So, okay, we've got this in the near future. In the long term, keep that fantasy going. I think what happens is that if she gets to be a little bit of a loose cannon, he may need to throw up some more smoke screens to, he's very good at distracting. But this also means that he could be trying to throw up another smoke screen to us as well. So I would say that this could be more of a symbolic thing where, as we see how this little, if whatever you want to call it, obsession works out, is that if he's been playing her, we as a nation get a clear understanding of how he's been playing us. So the outcome would be just kind of like walking away, um, from this and not being distracted. It's kind of nice to have a little fun with this because the news is so scary with the muskrat and his muskrateers digging into all this stuff that and I will say sometimes we need to get a little feeling of superiority, but and maybe it's a way of just walking away from all of the drama. And that's especially when this card is in reverse, it's really with all these crazy cups in reverse, it's like walking away from that. And I've heard other people say that maybe going back to family, or that go back to your sane world for a while and let these people just. But so the outcome is that I think that people may see this as, well, he may do it to his little bevy of bimbos, but not going to do that to me anymore. I mean, he's been playing all of us. Now, a lot of us haven't bought it, but in a way we do, because he throws up all this BS conquering Canada and all. You've heard that all before. So the lesson to be learned out of this is that with things happening, so I always think of that. So stop the world, I want to get off. I think that's what this card represents. Stop the world, I want to get off. So in a way, this kind of little scandalous story lets us stop for a while and not be focused on the really negative things, but maybe it's also telling us that we may just need to stop and slow down for a little bit and kind of gather our own senses together. And in looking at a story like this, it's like, how many of us live like this? I can tell you maybe back in the drinking days, it was a little bit of a different story, but as adults trying to get by, I mean, even though they're, and I have, with my clients, I do, I do come, they do come to me sometimes with their chaotic lives. But I'm even thinking of even the craziest ones that I mean, they can't hold a candle to all of this stuff. That's day after day, one thing after another. They cannot hold a candle to all of this insanity that's been going on. So maybe in a sense we can say, like, okay, a lot of things are a bit chaotic, but it's nothing like this. And maybe it's a time to be grateful, and the fact that we don't have the media of the world following us around and breaking these stories. I mean, You figured that, yeah, maybe a couple Secret Service people got a little chatty. Reporters have a way of no matter how well trained you are, a very well trained reporter can get stuff out of you. So, anyway, I do think that for us that, it can be a diversion, but be careful it doesn't become too much a diversion where we take our eye off the ball, because we really do need to do our bit to fight all of this, downward turn that our country is getting. But at any rate, and also to see that he is a loose cannon and he could be vulnerable to getting into somebody's bed where national security is concerned. So whether that's happening in this case or not, it just shows you that it's quite, in fact, hiring and keeping somebody like that on also shows very poor uh, lack of judgment, and that it's stroking his ego. So he keeps her on, and the Secret Service are like going nuts because they've got to try to keep her away from him. So that is not really, really good for us as a country to have all of this going on. But it is kind of fun to talk about it, and maybe spend a minute or two and see what the Daily Mail and some of that other stuff. But then it's after you've had your little fun, it's like you got to get back to the real world. So, at any rate, I hope you kind of enjoyed this, and I will see you again soon. So, bye, everybody.